Good evening. It is raining.
It is. It's pouring. Cats and dogs, they say.
I hope that you're keeping warm if you're still on the road.
Absolutely.
There's massive traffic.
Absolutely. I mean, with the rain comes a whole lot of issues, transport problems, as well as some serious safety concerns.
Right.
Stay safe out there.
It is very, very important. That aside, we're here to bring you the news and a very incredible conversation later on about trees again, because rain, trees and all that, pretty much around the same thing. And so welcome on board. My name is Linda Alela. This is the Daily Report. What do you bring us later?
And I'm Victor Muyakane. Later on, I'll be coming in with the green fix, where we're going to be talking about the ambitious plan for Kenya to actually plant 15 billion trees by 2032.
Many said it is not possible. How far are we?
They say we're doing at about 1.4 billion trees right now. But Linda, the most important question is not really how many trees we plant, but how many actually survive.
Right.
And how much of an impact it actually has on the environment.
And we have experts later on to tell us just how critical that is and what you need to do after planting to make sure that that tree survives. So, karibu sana, it is time for the Daily Report, and here are the top stories. Top tonight. The National Assembly has approved the National Infrastructure Fund bill, pushing the proposed legislation a step closer to becoming law. Also tonight, the bodies of 5 victims of the Nandi helicopter crash, including Emurua Dikir Member of Parliament Joanna Ngeno, arrived in Emurua Dikir ahead of a memorial service scheduled for tomorrow. And Kenya Airways has unveiled sweeping changes to its board of directors as part of a broader strategy aimed at transforming and strengthening the national carrier. And the broadcast begins right away. I'll have Catherine Simaloi assisting me on the sign language interpreter's side. We go straight to it, where the National Assembly of Kenya has this evening approved the National Infrastructure Fund bill after successfully passing the crucial third reading. Now, the legislation, sponsored by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, will now be forwarded to President William Ruto, that is for assent into law. The bill sailed through Parliament despite a stiff opposition from several leaders who argued that the proposed fund contains constitutional gaps and could open doors to corruption if not subjected to stronger oversight mechanisms.
Members of Parliament have this evening voted to pass the infrastructure bill. Despite opposition from leaders in the minority side, the infrastructure fund will be managed by a board comprising a chairperson, who will be an independent director, the cabinet secretary for the National Treasury or their representative, 4 additional independent directors, 2 directors with senior development banking experience, and the chief executive officer, who will serve as an ex-official member. Independent directors and banking experienced directors will be recruited through a competitive process. Finance Committee Chair Kuria Kimani says the bill will support the construction of key infrastructure projects, including ICT infrastructure.
We look forward to when our data will be not held in overseas countries, but we are going to have data centers, this country, Honorable Speaker. We are going to have mega dams. We are going to have all projects that are going to lead.
Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah said the bill underwent several amendments before being passed, describing it as a major step towards transforming the country's infrastructure development.
I have special mention for these 4 members because they opposed the bill and proposed amendments and have been here to legislate.
The National Infrastructure Fund aims to mobilize nearly 5 trillion shillings over the next 10 years. Its main objective is to shift infrastructure financing from a debt-led model to an investment-led approach. Earlier, members of the opposition had raised concerns over the bill, noting that as of 2024, Kenya already had more than 60 public funds operating outside the consolidated fund. They argued that many of these funds have overlapping mandates, weak oversight, and poor reporting, a situation the Control of Budget has flagged as a major governance risk. Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka also questioned the proposal, saying Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi failed to clearly justify how the fund will be managed.
His court affidavit reviewed a wholly contradictory reality. The entity is not a fund within the meaning of Article 206 at all, but a limited liability company.
Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Paul. Now, final preparations are underway in Emurua Dikir as residents prepare to give a befitting send-off to the late area Member of Parliament, Joanna Ngeno, and 4 other victims who lost their lives in a helicopter crash in Chepkiyep. The bodies were airlifted to Emurua Dikir Primary School earlier today ahead of a joint memorial service scheduled for tomorrow. Now, family members, political leaders and hundreds of mourners have gathered in the area to pay their final respects to the 5 victims. Our reporter Apollo Kamau is on the ground in Emurua Dikir and of course with the latest. Apollo Kamau, if you can hear me, what is there to expect?
It's been a day of mourning here in Emurua Dikir. Residents, as you can see behind me, are all keeping vigil tonight. A few moments ago, they were lighting candles behind me, just as a remembrance of their MP, a man they consider a hero, a man who fought for the community, a man when it came to the welfare of the community, he stood among heroes. And before the burial tomorrow, let's hear what the residents here have to say about the man himself, Joanna Ngeno, who has served Emurua Dikir since 2013 when he first contested on Kenya National Congress Party, and then we had 2017 with KANU, and then 2022 with UDA Party. Asante sana kwa kujiunga nasi hapa TV47. Tueleze tafadhali hisia zako ziko vipi kabla ya kupea mheshimiwa kwa heri hapo kesho.
Kitu tunaomba siku ya leo, naomba amani iwe kesho, maana tulichoona mheshimiwa Joanna Ngeno amefariki na tunajua sisi zote amefariki. Ingawa sisi tuko na huzuni kubwa. Joanna alikuwa anatupenda sisi wote, hakuwa mtu mbaya, na tunaomba Mwenyezi Mungu atupee kiongozi kama Joanna Ngeno. Sisi tumeumia kimoyo sana katika hapa kwetu Emurua Dikir na mafamili yote ya Emurua Dikir. Tunawaomba amani juu kuna viongozi wakubwa, even president na wote. Tukase tu amani, tuwe na amani kuanzia asubuhi mpaka tumsike Honorable Joanna Ngeno. So nawaomba kila mtu tuwe na amani na tuwe na utulivu katika kwetu hapa Emurua Dikir.
Asante sana kwa maoni yako. Tusikie mzee mwingine hapa. Tafadhali mzee, tueleze hisia zako kabla ya maziko hapo kesho.
Asante sana Radio 47. TV47. Kwa jina mimi ni Paul Ochieng. Nafanya business hapa for a long time, almost 10 years. Lakini kwa mheshimiwa nimekuwa mtu mzuri, tena hapa anapenda kabila, ndio maana tumesanyika hapa kwa peace. Naomba wajamii wa hapa wa Kipsigis tunaishi nao hapa na amani kwa peace, ndio maana tunafanya business. Hata kesho wajumbe wakikuja wadumishe tu amani, wakae na respect, ili wabunge wanapotoka watoke wakisema pale kuna amani, ili tumpumshishe mheshimiwa. Tunaomba tu Mungu atupe kiongozi kama huyo. Ni hivyo tu, asanteni sana.
Asante kwa maoni yako. Tupate maoni ya mama hapa kidogo. Je, mheshimiwa unamkumbuka kivipi?
Mheshimiwa Ngeno tunamkumbuka hasa hapa kwa Ndanai Town. Mheshimiwa ni mtu mwenye ungempigia simu ungempata naye direct, si kuna mtu unafaa kumpitia ndio umpate. So hiyo ndio kitu muhimu sana tunamkumbuka. Kitu ya pili, tunamkumbuka Mheshimiwa Ngeno kwa usaidizi yenye alisaidia waimbaji wetu hasa wa Kalenjin. Aliwasaidia sana mpaka mwisho. Hata siku yenye alienda kupata hiyo ajali ya ndege, alikuwa ameenda kusaidia msanii. So tunamkumbuka kwa hayo. Kitu kingine ya muhimu zaidi, yeye uko Emurua Dikir ilikuwa nchi yenye kulikuwa na a lot of darkness, lakini penye Mheshimiwa Ngeno alichaguliwa kuwa MP wa Dikir, he brought the light, he brought all there was light in that community. Alitengeneza mabarabara, mashule alitengeneza, so the light of the people of Transmara, it came to the light. So tunamkumbuka mheshimiwa kwa hayo. Kitu kingine tena, Mheshimiwa Ngeno venye alikuwa mheshimiwa hakuwa na mipaka, hasa eti anafaa kuhudumia watu wa Dikir peke yake. alikuwa anasaidia watu across the country. Hata hapa kwetu Sotik Sub County alitusaidia kwa mashule. Tungekuwa na Thanksgiving alikuwa anakuja. Tuko na harambee ya mtoto wa shule alikuwa anakuja. Tuko na harambee ya mtu mwenye ako hospitali, yeye pia alikuwa anakuja. So Mheshimiwa Ng'eno tunaweza sema alikuwa mtu wa maana sana. Na hasa tulikuwa tunamwita Kingpin, as in yeye alikuwa boss wetu wote. So Mheshimiwa Ng'eno was very good and let him just rest in peace. Tunahuzunika sana kama hasa watu hapa ndani.
Asanteni sana kwa maoni yenu. There you have it. What you've just heard are people here calling for peace tomorrow during the burial. And you heard from them straight away saying he was a man of the people, a man who fought for interest of the people. Now we understand that tomorrow President William Ruto will be leading the entire government machinery at Emurua Dikir for the burial to pay their last respect. And therefore, there are huge expectations tomorrow. The constituency of Emurua.
All right, thank you.
And as they look forward, forging ahead on what a future means without the MP Johanna Ng'eno, who passed on at 53 years. Back to you.
Indeed, thank you so much, Apollo Kamau. We certainly condole with the residents of Emurua Dikir, and that is now. But earlier on, emotions ran high in Emurua Dikir as residents gathered to receive the remains of the late Johanna Ng'eno. Now, the bodies were airlifted to Emurua Dikir Primary School ahead of a joint memorial service attended by family members, political leaders, as well as hundreds of mourners who turned out to pay their last respects. Munene John has the details of that.
Grief and sorrow engulfed Emurua Dikir as thousands of residents gathered at Emurua Dikir Primary School to receive the remains of the late Member of Parliament Johanna Ng'eno and 4 other victims who died in the tragic helicopter crash in Chepkiep. The aircraft carrying the bodies landed at around 9 a.m., triggering emotional scenes as family members, leaders and residents gathered in large numbers to honor the fallen legislator and the other victims. Leaders who addressed the mourners described Ng'eno as a devoted servant of the people who championed development and remained closely connected to the community.
Mwisho walikuwa changina kwetu na mheshimiwa wakakunywa maziwa kwa kibuyu moja na wote wakaenda. Pole vile mlikuwa mmetuahidi, please simameni na sisi.
Leaders who addressed the mourners described Ng'eno as a devoted servant of the people who championed development and remained closely connected to the community he represented. They said his leadership and dedication will be remembered for years to come.
Maadili yote ambayo mheshimiwa Ng'eno aliongelea, hakuna hata moja ambaye haitatimizwa.
Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie watu wa Digiri, sisi wote ni marafiki wa Ngong. Na mtu akishaenda kama vile Ngong ameenda, tumpatie heshima na tumukumbuke kwa ile kazi mzuri alifanya across Kalenjin.
The joint prayer service was held to honor the memory of the 5 victims and give the community an opportunity to mourn together following the tragic accident that shocked many across the country. Meanwhile, authorities have launched investigations to establish the cause of the crash, assuring the public that a comprehensive probe is underway to determine what led to the tragedy. Security has been heightened in the area to manage the large crowds attending the ceremony as preparations continue for the funeral service scheduled for tomorrow in the honor of the departed. Munene John, TV47, Nairobi.
And now to matters education. Teachers across the country have threatened to begin a nationwide strike. That is over what they describe as persistent challenges in the Social Health Authority medical insurance scheme. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers has issued the government with a 7-day ultimatum to resolve the hospital payment disputes and system failures that have left many teachers struggling to access treatment. This report was produced by our very own Mwaluse Meshak.
We are therefore giving SHA a notice of 7 days.
Teachers across the country are on the verge of launching a nationwide strike after the Kuppet Union issued a 7-day notice to the government over challenges in the Social Health Authority medical scheme. KUPPET union leaders say the SHA system has been experiencing frequent breakdowns and delays in settling hospital claims, leaving many teachers stranded in hospitals or forcing them to pay for their treatment out of pocket.
So inabidi hawa walimu naona wamechanga pesa pamoja na union ya 1.5 million. This is something we have never seen in the last 16 years. And therefore, SHA is not working for teachers.
KUPPET Secretary General Akello Misori says teachers are struggling to access treatment because many hospitals have withdrawn from the scheme due to delayed payments.
The hospitals are withdrawing because the system of claims is fatigued. The lives of teachers we represent, the members who contribute heavily to SHA, is going to be compromised.
Union leaders also say public hospitals are overwhelmed and lack adequate resources to effectively serve teachers. KUPPET is now calling for urgent talks with the government and the immediate settlement of hospital debts within 7 days, warning that teachers could disrupt learning activities if the matter is not resolved.
A court in Makadara has ordered the detention of a Directorate of Criminal Investigations officer for 14 days as investigations continue into the alleged murder of a woman in Kasarani. The officer, Daniel Mburu, surrendered to police in Naivasha following the suspected killing of his lover, Florence Nyaga. Our reporter, Susan Lucho, has the details of that.
DCI officer Daniel Mburu Masharia surrendered to police on Wednesday after being linked to the killing of his lover Florence Nyaga in Kasarani. And now investigations show that the couple had disagreements in the day leading up to her death, with a knife recovered during the investigation believed to be connected to the attack. The prosecution argues that Masharia, being an officer familiar with the justice system, could interfere with witnesses if released, prompting the magistrate to allow detectives to detain him for 14 days.
Kenyatta was previous when the police didn't have an insurance cover.
So right now you can go to Chiromo.
Chiromo.
All right.
Meanwhile, investigations are ongoing as detectives record witness statements, analyze CCTV footage, and conduct DNA tests in efforts to establish the full circumstances surrounding the incident. Susan Locho for TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, a man has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for the murder of former athlete Samson Kandie. Vincent Kiprono was handed the sentence at the Eldoret High Court in a case presided over by Justice Ruben Nyakundi. Duncan Mutua details on that.
Manslaughter. The victims.
Vincent Kiprono, while appearing before a judge at the Eldoret High Court, pleaded guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter in the 2024 killing of athlete Samson Kandie.
I've thought through and imposed a sentence of 15 years for this offense.
Kiprono has now been sentenced to 15 years in prison after agreeing to cooperate with the prosecution as part of the plea agreement. He is also expected to serve as a state witness in the ongoing murder trial against Kandie's widow, Rose Chepkemoi, who remains the main suspect in the case. The sentence was delivered by Eldoret High Court Judge Justice Ruben Nyakundi. Kandie was found unconscious at his Elgon View residence on October 2nd, 2024, with both his hands and legs tied with rope, suggesting possible foul play. He later passed away while undergoing treatment at a local hospital.
The sting of death is avoidable. The sting of death is avoidable. If all of us play by the rules.
Before his death, Kandie had excelled in long-distance running and had participated in Sapporo Marathon in 2002 and the Vienna Marathon in 2004. Duncan Mutua, TV47.
The government has intensified efforts to recover billions of shillings that were issued under the Hustler Fund after it emerged that about 15% of the loans disbursed have not been repaid. Appearing before the National Assembly's Special Funds Accounts Committee, that is the Hustler Fund Chief Executive Officer Henry Tanui said the fund has mechanisms to trace defaulters through their national identification details. The government says it will rely on sensitization rather than punitive recovery measures. Our very own Mike Agungu details on that.
Hustler Fund Chief Executive Officer Henry Tanui has revealed that about 15% of loans issued under the government-backed lending program have defaulted.
Family banks.
Appearing before the National Assembly's Special Funds Accounts Committee, Tanui said a total of 83 billion shillings have been borrowed so far, with 71 billion already repaid and 5.3 billion saved by borrowers through the program.
5.3 billion which has been saved, that is gross, but we have allowed them to take 1.1 billion. Currently we owe their savings of about 4.2 billion shillings. Majority of the young people between the age of 18 and 30 have saved 2 billion shillings.
Tanui explained that the loans are tied to borrowers' national identification numbers, allowing the fund to trace individuals regardless of the SIM card used to access the facility.
The young people that think that they borrowed and disappeared, they can't, because the ID is your account. The loan is tied to a national ID of every individual, whether you have several SIM cards or one, and your national ID tells us even to the location that you come from.
He warned that borrowers who attempt to evade repayment will still be traced through their identification records. However, he clarified that the government will not rely on punitive recovery methods, saying the focus will be on borrower sensitization and structured repayment.
We don't take legal action, we don't arrest them, but we reach out in a humane way and we sell the benefits of the fund.
Tanui also disclosed that Nairobi County leads in the number of borrowers, followed by Kiambu County. The government says it will continue sensitizing borrowers to repay their loans to ensure the Hustler Fund continues supporting small-scale entrepreneurs across the country. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mike. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has warned principal secretaries and other state officers against engaging in political campaigns, insisting that public officials must remain politically neutral as the country heads into an increasingly active political season. The EACC Chief Executive Officer Abdi Ahmed Mahmoud says the Commission is proposing amendments to the Constitution, arguing that the provisions have made it difficult to effectively enforce integrity, ethical and moral standards for candidates seeking elective office. Our senior political affairs reporter Elizabeth Mutuko with the details of that.
Appearing before the National Assembly's Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee, chaired by Nandi Member of Parliament Bernard Kitur, EACC CEO Abdi Mohammed says the current legal framework leaves gaps that allow some senior government officials to engage in political activities, while cabinet secretaries have some latitude under the law. Mohammed stressed that principal secretaries and other public officers must remain politically neutral and should not participate in political campaigns.
There are state officers being investigated for participating in campaigns.
Exempts cabinet secretaries and county executive committee members, but it does not exempt any other state and public official.
The commission made the remarks amid heightened political activities as the country gradually gears up for the next general election, with concerns emerging over some government officials appearing to mobilize political support. Issue over voter bribery and misuse of public office during campaigns also remains a major concern.
After election, did you go for them or did you condemn after? Because you cannot arrest me now because maybe you fear this crowd.
What we do is we generate a report, do the investigation internally, where we find there's sufficient evidence, We, of course, recommend charges to the DPP.
Mohammed further called for amendments to Article 93, Section 3 and Article 193, Section 3 of the Constitution, noting that the current provisions allow individuals convicted of abusing public office or violating Chapter 6 of the Constitution to contest elections while their appeals are still pending. EACC says the proposed amendment would ensure such individuals remain disqualified from contesting elections until their convictions or sentences are successfully overturned through the appeals process.
What then is the point of EACC vetting function if IBC is not legally required to act?
Our hands are tied because the Constitution says they have not exhausted the appeal procedure. So that justifies the proposals that we are bringing.
DPP has unchecked powers. Nobody checks the DPP. DPP can decide to close a file, can decide to return a file. He is not answerable to anybody. He basically does what he wants.
Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
In the heart of Chengdu in China, a traditional approach to finding love continues at the matchmaking corner in People's Park. Here, parents post handwritten profiles of their children on public boards, listing details such as age, occupation, and background in hopes of finding suitable partners. Well, unlike modern dating platforms, the profiles are linked to verified identities, giving families confidence in the information shared. Take a look.
At People's Park, thousands of resumes, hand-filled by parents, categorized and pinned up for the world to see.
The information registered here is real identity information. Here in the park, parents register the IDs to post the sheets. It's quite reliable and down to earth. On social media apps, some accounts are virtual numbers. You can't really tell what's real, right? It's all for my daughter's happiness. Kids nowadays are very busy, right? So sometimes parents come to help them take a look because the information here is relatively trustworthy.
I think everyone sees it differently. Some people might feel it brings trouble or pressure and think they're not ready for that yet. They may prefer to meet their future partner through their own channels, but others might feel that the people they meet at work aren't suitable, and outside of work, they don't really have other social circles to meet potential partners. If parents help screen first and then they go to know the person themselves, there's actually a certain sense of security in that.
Now, Kenya Airways has announced sweeping changes to its board of directors as part of a strategic transformation aimed at strengthening the airline's leadership as well as improving its financial performance. Now, the national carrier confirmed the appointment of 4 new board members effective March the 5th, 2026, following the retirement of long-serving chairperson Michael Joseph and the resignation of other directors. Taking over the chairmanship is Kiprono Kitoni, who also chairs the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The board also welcomes economist David Ndii, marketing executive Chris Diaz, and finance scholar Winnie Iminza Nyamute as non-executive directors. The restructuring comes as KQ rolls out reforms aimed at restoring profitability and boosting its competitiveness in the market. And Kenya Revenue Authority has intensified efforts to support small businesses and taxpayers in improving tax compliance through expanded engagement as well as education programs. Speaking during a taxpayer forum in Kisumu, KRA officials revealed that out of more than 22 million registered taxpayers in the country, only about 7 million pay some form that is of tax. And now the authority says the gap is largely driven by limited awareness about tax obligations. The engagement is part of ongoing efforts to widen the tax base while making the systems more accessible for micro as well as small enterprises. Now, Kenya has launched a private sector-led dual training curriculum aimed at tackling youth unemployment by equipping young people with practical job-ready skills. The program allocates 75% of training to workplaces as well as 25% to classroom learning. The launch was officiated by Labour and Skills Development Principal Secretary Shadrach Mwadime and endorsed by TVET Principal Secretary Esther Muoria during the inaugural Youth Skills Development Forum. The initiative brings together government, industry as well as training institutions to align skills development with labour market demands.
About the skills mismatch, it's a known thing. These are not things that we don't know. It's things that we talk about all the time. Our education and training systems have expanded access significantly in this country, but expansion has not always translated into relevance.
In this whole process, sustained private sector investment remains the only scalable solution for jobs creation. The government cannot hire its way out of this challenge, and the donors cannot fund a development program which is big enough to solve this problem. Only thriving enterprises, small and large, can create a durable solution to these private sector issues and to this massive unemployment problem.
All right, Kenya Premier League leaders Gor Mahia FC were held to a 1-1 draw by Posta Rangers FC this evening at Nyayo National Stadium in Nairobi. Posta Rangers took an early lead in the 7th minute of the first half, putting pressure on the league leaders. However, Kogalo fought back and scored a late equalizer to deny Rangers all 3 points. Despite the draw, Gor Mahia remained top of the league standings, that is with 50 points ahead of rivals AFC Leopards and Shabana FC.
Anajaza kitu ndani ya kamba mapema mno. Kutoka GPO mpaka Nyayo. Bano Mondi. Amejaza ndani, amekataa Elvis Osok. Bado naye tena Morrison. Analeta ndani. Nafasi!
And Kenya basketball champions Nairobi City Thunder returned to action Friday night when they face Stanbic Shields at Nyayo National Stadium in what promises to be a thrilling encounter. Now, the Brad IBS-led side are looking to make it 3 wins in a row since the league resumed after sweeping aside rivals Equity Bank Hawks as well as Ulinzi Warriors in their previous matches. Thunder are yet to register a single loss and are aiming to write their names in the history books with a third successful national title. And basketball will soon be introduced in 32 specialized schools for children with disabilities across the country. Now, the Basketball Experience Inclusivity program will equip coaches as well as educators with practical skills to support holistic youth development. The program will be rolled out in Nairobi, Machakos, Kiambu, and Kajiado counties, highlighting the role of basketball in empowering boys and girls, fostering life skills, and promoting social inclusion for children of all abilities. Last but not least on news, Kenyan teenage rally sensation Tinashe Gatimu, alongside her navigator and mother Caroline Gatimu, has officially unveiled her car ahead of the Safari Rally Kenya. Now, the KCB Group-sponsored crew will tackle the grueling Naivasha showdown in a Ford Fiesta Rally 2 machine as they look to build on last year's impressive performance, as well as secure a podium finish for the 2nd year running. Now, the iconic rally is set to roll into life on March 12th before concluding on March 15th in Naivasha.
Of a higher class than the previous cars we've been using. And this year we'll also be participating in the Africa Rally Championship, still under WRC. And we'll see how it goes. Racing under the KCB flag for the 2nd year in a row, alongside other great drivers. It means It means a lot to see them supporting the growth of the sport, also supporting us, the younger generation, the Gen Zs. And we hope to continue like this. And I can't wait to fly the KCB flag high at the safari.
The Tinashe and Carol mother-daughter duo are flying the KCB Women Entrepreneurship Proposition flag high. And this is a proposition that we call FLAME, Female-Led and Made Enterprises. This is the bank making a decision to support women entrepreneurs. And today, their car is branded FLAME, and they will be driving and flying that flag high.
All right, we're about to cross over to the other side for Green Fix. I see Victor Moyakani on standby and the guests as well. Indeed, a conversation that you do not want to miss out on. And therefore, I'll take a break and, of course, come later. But right now, let's take a break and then we have Moyakani.